So let's follow that report up by coming back to the Dinenage affair. This was the letter that she sent to the chief executive of Rumble, which we covered a few days ago. We also pointed out the relationship, well, her husband connected through to 77 Brigade, the very body spying on the British public. But now we've got this extraordinary announcement, which has come out from the Attorney General. And I've labelled it here as panic, as the UK government realises that their own actions to label Brand guilty before the trial could backfire. So what has the Attorney General had to say? Let's just have a look at some of the text of that. It said, following the airing of Russell Brand in plain sight dispatches on the 16th of September 2023, there's been extensive reporting about Russell Brand. The Attorney General, here she is, Victoria Prentis, wishes to amplify the importance of not publishing any material where there is a risk that it could prejudice any potential criminal investigation or prosecutions. And she goes on, publishing this material could amount to contempt of court. Now, I've added in there that she doesn't mention anything to do with fair trials, and I don't believe that there is the slightest intention of providing a fair trial, but the government's now worried that its own ministers acting to accuse Russell Brand could actually backfire on such a trial. So let's finish off the text. Editors, publishers, and social media users should take legal advice to ensure that they are in a position to fully comply with the obligations to which they are subject under the common law, interesting that's mentioned, and the Contempt of Court Act 1981. And a final piece here. The Attorney General's office is monitoring the coverage of these allegations, and I think we need a question here. Who exactly will be doing the monitoring of what is appearing on social media or indeed in the media? Is that going to be done by the British Army's 77 Brigade division, which is quite possible since they were active during COVID-19, or is it going to be some special secretive department of the Ministry of Culture, Media and Sport? The key bit is that we simply don't know. But if we move on, and a big thank you to UK column viewer that highlighted this to me, we've got a report in the Press Gazette, and this is all about the fact that Dame Caroline Dinenage has also now gone for GB News. GB News impartiality undermined by Bev Turner, support for Russell Brand, MP warns. So the government itself, its own ministers going straight for Russell Brand. If I've just moved through here, this is part of the comment that she made. While GB News is not responsible for this content, it is concerning that Beverly Turner, who described Mr. Brand as a hero and invited him to appear on her show, subsequently fronted GB News coverage of the allegations regarding Mr. Brand on the morning of the 18th of September. While Ms. Turner was challenged on her comments at length by her co-presenter, Andrew Pearce, we remain concerned that having a presenter so clearly supporting an individual who is the subject of intense media coverage, including seeking their appearance on the show, undermines any perception of due impartiality in the broadcasting. I thought this was an extraordinary statement, Mike, because, of course, what it is showing is that at the moment, there's no reason for her to be doing what she's doing, simply that this person has a high profile. But if we go to legislation to actually see what's being talked about, here's contempt of court. That includes disobeying or ignoring a court order, taking photographs or shouting out in court, refusing to answer the court's questions if you're called as a witness, publicly commenting on a court case, for example, on social media or online news articles. And we've got public comments here saying whether you think a person is guilty or innocent, referring to someone's previous convictions, naming someone the judge is allowed to be anonymous, naming victims, witnesses and offenders, naming sex crime victims, sharing any evidence or facts about a case that the judge has said cannot be made public. And again, here's the rap. If you're found to be in contempt of court, you could go to prison for up to 2 years, get a fine, or both. But let's remind ourselves that at the moment there is no court case. So, Alex, I'm going to use a slightly difficult. This is a dog's breakfast of the law. The law has been served up as a mishmash in order to confuse people as to what they can and cannot say about Russell Brand.
At this stage, Brian, I'm going to call this development the Alex Salmondisation of English law. Alex Salmond was the first Minister of Scotland and the leader of the Scottish National Party. And in the show notes, we will put a playlist of my readings, largely of work by Craig Murray, the former British ambassador turned Scottish nationalist politician, who found just how injurious to any notion of fair trials and democracy this spread of the idea of criminal contempt of court, which is judges ruling from the bench that you broke the law with no parliamentary leg to stand on other than their own conceived ideas of what their orders are, just how far that's spread. In the Salmond trial, it was perfectly obvious. So to jump to the conclusion there, for those who don't want to wade through that playlist of my recordings or aren't familiar with it, Murray very well documented on his blog for a long time that if you were favourable to the regime, for example, it's even comparable because it revolves around alleged allegations of harassing women, if you take great liberties with women but are in the regime's good books, then a blind eye will be turned. If, however, you question, for example, I'm going to be pointed here, that the women who make allegations against a public figure were pure as the driven snow, and particularly if you question this false claim that they are utterly naive and vulnerable rather than being middle-aged women in public life who jolly well know what they're doing, then you have hell to pay. And you do not need Parliament for that, you just need the court. The judge sitting alone in many cases. Scots law has its similarities with England, but both the common law and the statutory route are different on vital points, and so it was thought that this would be something reserved to Edinburgh. But I think it's been piloted now north of the border enough for it to be spread to England and Ireland.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that, Alex. Well, that moves us on